There we go.
All right, wake up. Friday morning. It is officially November. Welcome to November. I'm Larry Krueger. That's Damon Bruce. It's Wake Up with Damon and Larry, and it's starting right now.
It is Friday, November 1st. I hope everyone had a great Halloween. The kids had a really good time at our house and in the neighborhood. I hope you feel the same way wherever you're watching. And it is really good to have you here. It is a very casual wake up with no stress of a game coming up this weekend. We're going to take today's show to sort of look back at what we've learned. What do we think? What do we know? What can we prove? And we'll try to start predicting what the rest of the season might look like. We are brought to you by Sam's Chowder House, the best restaurant in Half Moon Bay. And if you are coming to the Bay Area for a 49er game, or really for any reason, making a day trip down to Half Moon Bay and Sam's Chowder House is a great decision. You'll be very happy that you did it. The drive down there and back from the city is absolutely beautiful. The sandwiches, the seafood, the lobster rolls, beautiful. The paella, the cioppino, it's all beautiful, Larry. Forget about views. I'm in it for the food and the flavor. And that's where the beauty really meets. I mean, it's fantastic. I love the place, and we got to get down there soon, my man.
And that does it for us. Thanks to everybody. No. Yeah, check out Sam's Chowder House. Good location along Half Moon Bay. The food is outstanding. The location is second to none. And we're still going to have phenomenal weather right up, through the wintertime. And, man, it's a great spot to go in November, December, and just sit there. And, they do have, on the patio, they do have heated the heat lamps out there. So in the wintertime, you can sit right there on the patio and have some oysters and be perfectly warm. And it's just a great location. So check out Sam's Chowder House. So many of you already have gone down there and sent Damon and I notes and videos and that you've been. And so we appreciate every one of you. But if you haven't checked it out, do check it out because you will not be disappointed.
We love seeing your pictures. So keep sending them when you go to visit Sam's. Let us know all about it. So, Larry, the question that you and I have to start today's show is the question that I think right now is being asked more in the 49ers war room and in front office meetings. And this is what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan go to bed thinking about each and every night. And it's the first thing they think about when they wake up in the morning. What serves the 49ers better? Pushing your chips in with a sequence of small trades or a big trade, pushing your chips in and further investing, chasing a championship in this year where there's all sorts of mixed data points to whether or not that is a good or foolish thing to do? Or is it time to maybe fancy yourself a little bit of a seller and maybe start making the moves that set up a better 2025 by being, by making some tough choices at the deadline?
Well, it's an interesting question. It really is. Because in other sports, right, you would look at your situation and be like, are we in it? Are we out of it? I think their situation is twofold in that they're very, very much in it. Why? Because you can't divest yourself of your star players, in 5 seconds, right? So you have Trent and you have George and you have, Floyd and you have, some guys who have some age who are ready to win right now. There's also in this thing in football where you never look too far down the road because of the injury factor, the mortality rate in the game, how short careers are, Damon. I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I mean, those are the factors. And then, so it's like the division becomes the other prevailing kind of thought. Are they better than Seattle, the Rams, and the Cardinals? And even though they're 4-4 at the bye, I think, yeah, absolutely. The 49ers, I think in a realistic evaluation, I think it's realistic to say the 49ers, even without Ayuk, even without perfect health, are the best team in their division. So I think they're not going to be in a sell mode because they're inside their Super Bowl window and they're only 4-4. Now, if they were 1-7 or 2-6, then I think you're right. All hope would be lost, and they might sell off a Mooney Ward, George Kittle. They could sell off a couple pieces with their cap in mind, in the future in mind. But I actually kind of think that they're in a mode now where I think they're going to try to help their team. I think they're going to try to make moves, but they're going to be the kinds of moves that are muted, as far as they're not going to be huge cost in contract, nor are they going to be huge cost in draft choice or compensation. So if they can if they can address their issues without impacting their cap significantly and without depleting their reservoir of picks, I think they're going to do everything in their power to get better. And I do expect them to make a couple moves. I think they'll be armed with that extra 3rd round pick that they have in next year's draft. And possibly, the price tag is very low on a lot of these trades. D-Hop went for a 5th. Deontay Johnson went to the Ravens for a late round pick swap. So I don't know that they're going to get a superstar or Myles Garrett or something like that. There was a Mike Tannenbaum this morning on ESPN's Wake Up had the Lions, projected to make a trade for to send their running back Jahmyr Gibbs plus 2 number 1s and a number 2 to the Browns for Myles Garrett, as just like, as a trade that he was throwing out there. I don't think that kind of move's coming their way, but I think they definitely could make a move or two. Probably history tells us they've made 7 moves, I think, in this regime at the deadline, and I think 4 of them have been for defensive linemen. So I would expect defensive line will be again where they'll try to add. And if I was guessing, if you said, make a guess, my guess would be Sebastian Joseph Day, who was here last year, plays in Tennessee, is having a career year, isn't going to cost you much. I think he might even be a free agent at the end of the year.
The 49ers do love former Niners. They really do.
And I don't love Sebastian Joseph Day, to be honest, but you know what? I could see them getting him. I could also see them saying, we don't need that position, but we do need a defensive end. And the name that I would kind of look at is Jadeveon Clowney. He's been around. He's in Carolina. The Niners and Panthers have made deals in the past, multiple deals. Lynch and I think their general manager have a good relationship. I could see Jadeveon Clowney, who's very scheme versatile and having a decent year. I could see Clowney being a low-cost edge piece addition at the deadline.
I think that it makes a lot of sense. I've seen the name Davon Godchaux, who is on New England right now. He's been kind of linked to the Niners just in terms of gettable. He's gettable. It doesn't cost you much. The team shouldn't ask for much. And he's a serviceable player who's locked in for $4 million next year. Is he a superstar? No, but they're not asking him to be a superstar should they bring him in. They just want rotational pieces for this D line. I agree with you, Larry. I think you're spot on. They are the best team still in the NFC West, with all due respect to the Rams and the Seahawks, who are good enough to beat anybody on any given day. The whole league is basically that. But I think the Niners are the best team in the West, and I'd be surprised if this season, presented as something different at the end of it. Like, oh my God, the Arizona Cardinals won the NFC West. I'd be surprised by that. I think we all would be.
Yeah.
But even though we think that they are a playoff participant based on a division title, do you still think, as much as you did before this year began, of them as a true Super Bowl contender? And if they aren't a true Super Bowl contender, should they be caught up in we're the best team in our own division and we'll just get in there and take a shot?
I think, first of all, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year in what everybody kind of thought was a transition year for them. Yeah. They weren't very good, but at the end of the thing, they were the last team standing. I think the 49ers, are they a vintage 49er team? Well, not necessarily if McCaffrey doesn't come back, not necessarily if Hafanga and some of the guys that they have that are out, don't come back or don't come back at a high level. They have 7 key guys that are out, including their starting kicker. Lots of key guys for them. So if they get those guys back, yeah, I think they can make a run. I mean, I look at it this way. If you can get into the playoffs in the NFL, it's not like the NBA or, you're going to play, all these series on the road and you're still going to have to go out on the road, but it's a 1-game situation. Right. And you're still going to play, even if you're in that wild card round, you're only playing one extra game. And are you telling me that the 49ers, if Christian came back and, Juwan Jennings came back and Givens came back and Afonga and Greenlaw, these guys return, Yatir Gross-Matos, maybe they make a trade and add a piece or two at the deadline. Are you telling me that team could not go on the road and beat any of the teams in the NFC? And I would say they can. I would say they is as good as I think Detroit is, Green Bay is, Philly is, all these teams, Washington, whatever team you want to point to. I still think the 49ers are the star-studded team compared to almost every other team. And then there's the other thing is these other teams are incurring their own injuries. So Aiden Hutchinson's done for the year. Who was it? Somebody just lost somebody big in the last week or so. These teams are losing players left and right.
How about the Houston Texans?
That's a good one.
They just lost Diggs. Nico Collins is nowhere to be found right now, and everybody
lost the Jets.
I lost money on that, Larry. I talked about there's no way the Jets are winning this game. There's no way they should be given points or getting points. What the hell's going on here? This is just weird. I'm taking, I don't care if the game isn't New York. It's Houston's just a better operation right now than the Jets, and this is why it's called gambling, not investing.
And the Jets were favored. I actually got even cockier than that. I took the Texans on the money line last night. And I guess all I would say is, there are a few content creators that have put out CJ Stroud as he's the perfect quarterback. He's the perfect example. He was terrible last night. He was 11 for 21 or something like that, or he completed 35% of his passes, and he looked terrible. He looked absolutely terrible. So, you know what? Guess what? Really good young quarterbacks, and he is a really good young quarterback, have bad games. So remember that next time Brock Purdy has a bad game, it's guess what? CJ Stroud has had a bad game, and Steve Young I was there when Steve Young turned it over 5 times in his first playoff game against Washington. Joe Montana started 3-6. I mean, we've done this. We've had this conversation many times, but many of the NFL's Hall of Fame quarterbacks started slow. So Brock Purdy has started very, very fast. So let's just give him a little bit of grace when he loses a game like he did to Kansas City, and people are like, "Oh, he's not the guy." Well, are you taking that same energy this morning, making that same argument about CJ Stroud? Probably not. So all I would say is they all have bad games.
Yeah, the percentage of 49er content creators who would have given up on Peyton Manning after year one is ridiculous. So there's a lot of young kids here who really don't know what they're doing in the amateur hour that is 49er content creation.
Well, we all love Stroud. I mean, I love Stroud. I think Stroud's one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. It's one of those things. It's not a straight line to the top. There are bad games. There are bad moments. Mahomes gets into it. I'll say this about Purdy. I think Purdy has that dial, Damon, of risk reward pretty much, his whole career. I mean, from the beginning, a lot of guys need to learn where that dial is and then learn exactly where it needs to be set to. And what I'm talking about is the desire to attack downfield versus the desire to protect the football. That balance that every quarterback has to really find. They have to find the best quarterbacks find the perfect balance of risk reward. Brady did, Mahomes does. And Brock Purdy, I think, has been phenomenal at risk reward. He's aggressive. He takes chances down the field. He makes plays down the field, but he protects the football. Well, what happens when he's a little off? He doesn't protect the football. And the stat of the week, and I don't know forgive me if I said this earlier to you. I think I may have, I'm not sure. But Brock Purdy, when he doesn't turn it over this year, is 3-0. Brock Purdy in his career, when he doesn't turn it over, is 15-0.
Right.
That's staggering.
That's not a Niner turnover stat. That is a Purdy specifically to him turnover stat.
Right.
So there have been games where Brock has lost the game and somebody else has fumbled or there's been a turnover. But as long as he is keeping it clean, 15-0. And you talk about the dial that he's looking for, and he's doing such a good job tweaking. I mean, he experimented with the knob as much as you're going to see from him in the first few weeks of this year, which I think led to some of the growing pains and maybe some of the red zone disappointment that has defined this year. So for a guy who is tinkering, he's doing a hell of a job while he's tinkering.
Yeah. And what's happened, I think what we're seeing is the better teams, Kansas City this year, the Ravens last year on Christmas night. The better defenses speed him up a little bit. They're playing more man. He struggles against man, though he did have a much better game. I don't have his percentage, but he had a much better game against man-to-man coverage against Dallas than he'd had prior. So maybe he's showing growth there. And what are you also seeing? The prop that, I go with almost every week on better is the Brock Purdy singular rush stat. And it's usually between 7.5 and 11.5 yards on one run. And I always go with the over, and it's hit almost every time because over the course of the game, he's seeing man coverage so much that when they turn their head on the quarterback, he's going to run, and he'll run for 12, 15 yards. And it's hit. I mean, it's hit every week.
He makes good choices. Again, you need to be able to process things and move things quick in your mind and with your feet. And he's got a quick mind. He's got quick feet. And again, I believe in Brock Purdy. I know that there's a group out there who doesn't. When I what are we going to talk about today? I said we're going to talk about what do we think, what do we know, what can we prove? I think we know that Brock Purdy is a true NFL starting quarterback now. Like, some people are so pot committed to wishing he weren't for their own credibility,
right,
that they refuse to, use observable reality to change how they feel about the situation. The experts, the people who know more about football than I do, than you do, Larry, like people who played in the league, there is a unanimous 100% vote that Brock Purdy is the real deal among people who understand football for real, not just on YouTube. So, what do we think? What do we know? What can we prove? I think we know that Brock Purdy is truly the real deal. Like, I am out of the purgatory of, what do you think he's going to be? What do you think he's going to? I think he's going to be a 15-year NFL starting quarterback who could probably win multiple Super Bowls. That's who I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, I would tend to agree. I think that he's a really good young quarterback. I don't know what else I would say about him as far as I don't want to necessarily put, he's going to win this, he's going to win that, because I really do believe that the winning is kind of a team thing. But I think he'll win a Super Bowl. I do. I think he will win a Super Bowl for the 49ers. And I think he will lead them there. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, well, he'll be along for the ride. It's not going to be Peyton Manning with Denver kind of a thing. It's going to be they're going to win the Super Bowl, and Brock is going to lead them to it and through it. I really believe it's going to happen. I think he's a really good young prospect. Not only that, I think he's an unbelievable face of the franchise. When you really think about what Deshaun Watson has done in Cleveland and some of the guys who have had problems. I mean, Zach Wilson in with the Jets and his media, trials and tribulations, and some of the young quarterbacks who have kind of, even just this week with Anthony Richardson, who I love as a prospect, but Anthony Richardson's really, really young, right? So he didn't play a lot of quarterback. He's kind of has a lot more running back skills. He's still 6'3", 240 with 4.4 speed, but he's completing 44% of his passes, and he begged out of a game with fatigue. And, you just can't do that. Now he's getting barbecued by guys like Cam Newton and, others, which you could debate the validity of, or the validity of that whole criticism. But the truth is the truth. You can't beg out of an NFL game. Could you imagine what the reaction would be of Niner fans, media, content creators, everybody, if Brock Purdy literally said, I'm coming out of the game, and they said, why? And he called himself out of the game, and it was because he was fatigued. I mean, there would be no end. There would be no end to the number of times that is thrown out there. So,
well, beyond that,
he's a great face of their franchise.
The fact that if it happened here, people would be, just jumping off of buildings in downtown San Francisco. That's for sure. But look, I have been watching football closely, and this is not an exaggeration, for more than 30 years, 3 decades. 2 of those decades, like an actual credentialed member of the media covering football. I have never, as a fan, as a media member, as a person watching, have seen a guy ask out of a game because he was tired. Ever. I've never seen it happen. I've never seen it happen. No, I've seen guys, wave themselves off the field and say, Coach, I might need I got to come out for a play here. I got to, I've seen that, of course. But I've never seen a guy then go to his press conference and basically say, yeah, that drive was really long and it got to me. I had to rest. I've never seen that. So Anthony Richardson did step into a realm that I don't think anyone even considered possible. And that's why there's such an overreaction to it. He could still be a fine young quarterback. He could be an absolute athletic wonder who, as a quarterback, is sort of a disaster. I would not bet on him right now. I just wouldn't.
Lombardi puts out a lot of stuff on his Twitter.
Yeah.
And by the way, I saw Don Lemon interviewing the guy who run Elon, and was like, when are you going to get rid of X and go back to Twitter? And he's like, I'm not. I'm going to stay with X. But it is kind of funny because people still call X Twitter probably more.
No one calls it X. No one calls it X.
I call it Twitter. But anyway, this is kind of an interesting chart. On the bottom, you have the PFF offensive grades, right? And on the bottom, on the top, that's on the horizontal, I should say. On the vertical, you have EPA per play, passes, rushes, and penalties, and it's charted versus a production-based measures of quarterback play. And you, on all of these, if you know these kinds of charts, you want to be in the top right. Right. If you're on the bottom left, you're bad. And that's Bryce Young, Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, who we were just talking about, Aiden O'Connell, Mason Rudolph, Spencer Rattler, Jacoby
all
Brissett,
young guys in bad, non-winning situations, basically.
All the bad quarterbacks are basically here. And this is Deshaun Watson right here.
Yeah.
But on this side, you've got Lamar, and you got Burrow, you got Jaden Daniels, and then right here, you got Brock Purdy. So Brock Purdy is very much, having a very, very good year. So there might be people that will be like, well, he's having a bad year. He's not having a bad year. Yeah. He's right here to the far, the top right on this chart that, measures basically how good you are. EPA per play, your offensive PFF grade. And it's a combination of factors. And if you said who are the best quarterbacks, they're right here. Now, Jameis Winston's up there, but it's a small sample size.
Right, he played 4 quarters.
Malik Willis is up there, but as you can see, it's a tiny little circle because it's a small sample size. The bigger sample size are the bigger circles. Yeah,
Marcus Mariota's still hanging around.
Right. There's guys up there but those you can move. You could take those guys off just in cars there as well. Also, kind of a small sample size, but he got off to a hot start.
By the way,
Purdy's right there. Purdy's right there.
Carr could be coming back this week, and he was telling people in New Orleans, he's like, look, I'm excited to be coming back, but I'm not a savior. And basically everyone in New Orleans was like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know who you are. You have no feel at all. But still, Lamar and Burrow and Purdy and Mahomes, and here's Mahomes and here's Purdy. So I only reason I shared that is because, if you're one of these people that doesn't want to hear the emotional arguments and doesn't want to hear us describe it, and you really are somebody that wants to kind of seek out, like the straight, analytic truth through numbers, well, it shows that Brock Purdy is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, dude, Lombardi does a great job at presenting stats and facts. And a lot of people who have made up their minds about things, will refute stats and facts because they are telling you that what you've made your mind up about is wrong. And trying to convince someone that they're wrong about something is now harder to do in 2024 than it has ever been in any year we've ever lived together. But again, going back to Anthony Richardson, I've never seen a quarterback ask out of a game, of a drive.
Can't do it.
Yeah, you just can't do it. How do you turn around and look at all the guys in your huddle when you're on your knee calling a play and be like, I need one. Yeah, I know everyone in here is tired. It's the fourth quarter, but dig down. This is our drive. Like you basically has abdicated ever being that guy. And I don't know if you can be an NFL quarterback if people don't think you're that guy.
It's funny too, Damon. It's like we're starting to have a lot of quarterbacks that are in that I'm still really young, but I'm already a bust. I made a list the other day. I couldn't believe how long this list was of quarterbacks that are young, but you would be like, right now, you'd be like, well, what are these guys? And there's no way around it. They're busts, right? I'll throw you a few of these. It's actually pretty amazing. It's amazing how many there are. And it also kind of shows that, the NFL could probably use some kind of a minor league system. All right, here we go. Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, and now Anthony Richardson. All those guys are young quarterbacks. All of them are 26 years old or younger, and they're all busts. Now, I'm going to throw you three more names. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Geno Smith. What do those guys have on that in common? They all used to be on that list of busts, young busts. But now Baker's, is establishing himself in Tampa and looks really, really good. Darnold, heck, who knows? He might lead the Vikings to the Super Bowl. And Geno Smith, even though, Seahawks are falling on some hard times and he's not a perfect quarterback, he is so much better than the bust he was labeled as a couple years ago. So I guess my point is just that it's really, really, really hard to go into the draft and find your franchise quarterback. I almost think that when I look at Darnold and Baker and Geno, and that I'm, instead of hunting in the expensive pay retail aisle, I would rather go to the TJ Maxx aisle. I mean, where's Justin Fields and Mac Jones and Zach Wilson? They're Marshalls. They're basically the equivalent of TJ Maxx. It's
Ross,
like
quarterbacks. Ross.
You're not going to find the guy, the shirt that you want and the size that you want and the color that you want. But if you can get the right size and the right style, but it's not quite the right color, you're paying $9.99 for a shirt that at Nordstrom's is going to literally the same shirt's going to cost you like $60. So why do people go to TJ Maxx? Because it's like the same thing, but like you have to kind of hunt around for it, right? It's like right. You can't go there knowing that they're going to have exactly your shirt in every particular size and every color. And you just tell them, I want this shirt in this color, in this size. And then somebody goes to the back and hands it to you. That's not the way it works. It's like, there's men, go look through the racks of shirts and maybe you'll find something. Well, if you do, I mean, that's kind of like the NFL Reclamation Project quarterback list. I'll be totally honest. I think Mac Jones could reclaim himself and have a career. I think Zach Wilson might be able to reclaim himself and have a career. And I think Richardson might be able to reclaim himself and have a career. And I would be interested in all three of those guys. Because guess what? Let's just say that things broke differently last year, Damon, and Brock Purdy got hurt for 5 or 6 games, and Sam Darnold didn't just play one game at the end. He actually played 5 or 6 games. What if Sam Darnold played the kind of ball he's playing this year for the Vikings? Well, the Niners then could have signed him and traded him. They could have traded Purdy and kept him. I mean, if you want to turn your franchise around fast, hit on a quarterback that you don't need and then have another quarterback that you can trade for assets. That's the fastest way to build a roster there is in the league. So all I'm saying is, you know what? If I'm one of these teams that's given up on these young quarterback, these raw, former first round picks, if I'm Shanahan, I take my, decide which of them I like you did with Darnold, and do that again. Bring him in. Yeah, Brock's not going to like it, but guess what? You got a guy there you reclaim, and then if Brock does get hurt and Mac Jones comes in and plays 7 games and looks great, guess what? You're going to be able to trade Mac Jones in the offseason for a first or second round pick.
Yeah.
And that's how you build. I mean, at this point, if you're the Niners, you've missed on 7 first-round picks. You traded a bunch of players for Hargrave. You've had your regular assortment of injuries. Your depth has been kind of, depleted a little bit. If you want to build going forward and actually win a championship in this regime, you may have to find another quarterback and then turn that quarterback around in your system and then trade that quarterback for assets. I mean, to me, it's something that not only should they consider, I think that should be part of their plan.
Yeah. I mean, and no one has done a better job with the distressed asset quarterback than really Shanahan has. I mean, he's gotten a lot out of him. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. What do you got here?
MJ says Larry's gone full hipster with this bust quarterback take. I call me whatever you want. That's fine. It's just my take. I really do believe that Baker and Darnold, there's a Baker and there's a Darnold and there's a Mayfield in that list of quarterbacks there that I just gave you. I'm not sure which one it is. I have my own guesses, but like if you told me the Niners had Mac Jones, I bet you Mac Jones would play well for them.
Yeah.
Same with Zach Wilson. I really believe these guys would play well for them.
I bet you put Bryce Young right now, who was the worst measured dot on that chart that we just looked at, right? He was the worst dot there was. You put him, you take him from the worst situation in football and put him to one of the more competent situations in football. I think you would perform much better. There's just no doubt about it. So look, back to the Niners.
Yes.
And Christian McCaffrey's level of participation that we're going to get for the remainder of the season. Can they be true Super Bowl contenders with anything less than a fully functioning Death Star in Christian McCaffrey?
I think they can. But it's going to take some creativity and some luck and some improvement. And when I say that, I mean the luck has to come in the form of Jordan Mason's shoulder joint, AC joint has to subside or go, that injury's got to go away. So
Rendo's got to continue to show us improvement week to week.
He's got to just keep doing what he's doing, which is he has improved as it's gone on. And then I think they need to go find another back. And I think it's totally doable to find another back. I mean, Pierre Strong, Deontay Foreman, there's any number of guys, really. There's a bunch of guys out there that they could get. So, yeah, I do think I think they can win without Christian making a comeback.
I don't. To me, I think he is the force multiplier, the equation changer that just nobody else can really provide. I just think he's so special. He is that important. I think he is the guy that makes everyone around him better. He helps open up the offense. I think Debo is, having better games with Christian McCaffrey playing in the same game. I think that Kittle is harder to cover if you've got linebackers and safeties who got to have their eyes on McCaffrey coming out of the backfield. Like the lack of separation that has defined the Niners receiving core it starts to go away, I think, with Christian McCaffrey back in the mix, back in the room. I certainly hope so. Anyways. We'll see how many snaps he actually has for the 49ers in the second half. It's going to be fascinating to see how he's used, if he's used, when he's used. The deployment of Christian McCaffrey, I think, is going to be maybe the single most interesting storyline remaining in the year for the 49ers. If they got him back, how do they actually use him? How do they save him to be used at the right time? Your risk reward on McCaffrey is going to be, I think, a fascinating study going forward. I think that we can prove, Larry, that the 49ers are the rare team in football, with all due respect to Bill Parcells, that is actually better than their record. They have had an awful lot of self-inflicted wounds. I was reading an article, Niners Nation. It was either Kyle Posey or Madsen. It was I can't remember who exactly wrote the article. Sorry about that. But it basically looked at, even though the 49ers are not among the most penalized teams in football, the penalties that they have drawn have come at just the worst possible times. And they have taken 14 points off the board in penalties alone. Like, they had a penalty on a first down play in Minnesota that turned it into 1st and 20, that then turned into the sequence where the first blocked punt of the year reared its head against the 49ers special teams. And they have been, I think, their own worst enemy in so many ways. As soon as they stop taking points off the board themselves, as soon as they stop defending their own offense by making mistakes in their own offense, they get better. Like, I really do think this is a 4-4 team that is a lot closer to 5-3, 6-2 than they are the reality of 4-4. I don't think that had a few things broke the other way, they're 2-6. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They've had some untimely penalties, more so than every other team in pro football, and it's cost them 4 touchdowns. They've had 4 different touchdowns taken back because of penalties. So they're probably a little bit better than their numbers indicate, to be completely honest. Shanahan, it's funny. It is funny to me that Shanahan is just getting raked over the coals by lots of people. And there's this groundswell of dump Shanahan. And yet the 49ers have a top tier offense with no Christian McCaffrey, now with Ayuk done for the year, with injuries to Kittle and Debo and JJ at different times, but operating behind a line that's people don't think is very good. It's like, well, how is Shanahan's offense then top 10 if if the equation is bogging down and all these guys are not there? It kind of speaks that Kyle Shanahan's system really does work, and it works with a lot of different guys. It doesn't work with everybody. It's not like you don't need talent. You do need talent, but you don't. He's been able to win with less than stellar, a stellar supporting cast in his offense, even though he's got great players under contract. A lot of them are just not there. One of the areas, it's like perception versus reality. And once again, here's another chart from Lombardi's Twitter today, and Lombardi's all over it today. He's got this one on Colton McKivitz, and these are offensive tackles, evaluating offensive tackles when they're left on an island. This is truly when you find out what a tackle can do, right? Because when they're left on the island, that means they're one-on-one, and it's like there is no tougher play than that. When you don't get a chip, you don't get a combo block, you don't get any help. It's just you against the other guy. So on the bottom, the horizontal grid is island rate, where you get no help by a guard, a running back, a tight end. Nobody's helping you. Okay. And on the left side, the vertical is grade over expectation. So the quality of your pass protection. Anyway, I bring this one up because right here is Trent Williams, which is pretty good for Trent Williams to be right there. He's,
it is. Here's the thing. Can we be totally honest?
Top right.
Trent Williams should be better than that. Trent Williams is paid to be nothing less than the best left tackle in football, every game, mistake-free, do not fuck up ever, Trent Williams. His standard is above any other standard. I'm going to tell you that Trent has been a disappointment this year so far.
Well, that's fine, but he's still up here in the top.
He's still that good. Again, we're judging it, but I'm judging him against Trent Williams memories, not the rest of the league. So
yeah, I mean, who's the best? It's Lane Johnson, who's going to the Hall of Fame. It's Jordan Mailata, who's a incredible prospect. It's Tristan Wirfs. It's Colton Miller, who's a damn good player. The Seahawks #1 pick, Charles Cross, a great player. Deion Dawkins right here from Buffalo is a great player. But here's Trent, and here's McKivitz. So they're both up here in this top right quadrant, which is where you want this is where all the best players are. McKivitz is right there, and Trent is right there. So has Trent been disappointing? Yeah, I think we would expect Trent to be over here, to be, really separating. But my point is just that McKivitz is better than a lot of guys that, a lot of tackles. I mean, Taylor Decker of the Lions is way over here, and that's McKivitz. You know what I mean? So, Taylor Decker's thought to be an elite offensive tackle, and he's way back there. So I'm just saying, Mike McGlinchey, by the way, right here.
Where's Mike? Well, I lost your cursor. Where is he? Oh, he's right over there.
Right
Again,
there.
but here's the thing. You know what? McGlinchey was a little bit better than anyone wanted to give him credit for. Did you want to pay him top tackle dollars that he was looking for? No. So he moved on. Right. He went, they got Colton McKivitz for one of the best value contracts you're going to find in the NFL.
1 year, $7 million.
Based on where he's playing right there on that graph, all of those guys are $20 million a year tackles, except for one, right?
I mean, who are the best tackles in the game?
And they're still rookie deal, but he's good. He's not great. He's not perfect, but he's pretty good. He is hardly the reason why the 49ers are not winning. Colton McKivitz hasn't missed a tackle on defense all year. Colton McKivitz has had no special team fuck-ups yet this year. But
I think this also speaks to the coaching for Forster. I mean, Forster's a really good coach. I mean, take a look at last night. CJ Stroud was sacked 8 times. Laramie Tunsil's one of the best. He's right here. And Titus Howard is not bad. He's right there. People are like giving excuses for their offensive line today. Like, oh, well, his line was bad. Well, Tunsil's an elite tackle, and he's young. He's in the prime of his career. And Titus Howard is a decent player as well. And now their guards and their center are part of their offensive line as well. But at least on the tackle spots, Houston's pretty representative. But like Ronnie Stanley's a great player. He's way over here. Rashawn Slater's a great player. He's high on the vertical, but has not been on the island as much, or left alone on an island. What it shows here is that these guys get left on the island the most. And so Philly basically lets Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata go one-on-one all the time. And the Niners kind of do as well. They actually let McKivitz and Trent Williams go one-on-one more than you'd think. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. Just the fact that I think most Niner fans, if I said to you, here's the graph, you go put, where's Trent? They'd put Trent over here somewhere, and he's down there. And they'd put McKivitz way down here somewhere. And look where he is. He's up there. So that's all I'm saying.
No, I think it's a very good point. And again, what information silo do you sit in every day? Do you sit in an information silo where it's just everything the 49ers do is wrong, everything is bad? I didn't see a Super Bowl won today, so today was a bad day for the Niners.
Or you don't watch the film and you're just like, I know Colton, I know Trent Williams is an elite player, and I know Colton McKivitz, based on his money and where he was drafted and his career arc, is not an elite player. So I won't watch the film. I'll just box score it and then just start throwing out accusations. I don't even have the time or the energy or the hustle to watch the film and study it. So I'll just take a guy who I don't think has a great pedigree and I'll just crap on him without watching it. And that's when you do that, you miss out because you didn't watch it, because none of these guys stay the same, and they don't, and it's not linear. They don't play exactly at their level all the way through. They, this is life, and this is also life in the NFL.
Right. Look, you talk about pedigree, and this is why Brock Purdy's everybody's favorite punching bag, because it's very easy to identify the last pick in the draft as someone without pedigree, and betting against the last pick in the draft takes no talent or no guts at all. It's the easiest bet you'll ever make. So people loaded up on it. And then they found out that they bet on the wrong horse there. So they just try to prove that they might have been right, when every single week Brock is out there basically proving you're all wrong. So many of you were wrong. By the way, like and subscribe. It's great to have you here. Thanks to Sam's Chowder House for sponsoring, as always. You just had Trent Williams, who, again, he's got a good position. His position on that list, Larry, would be even better Had he had a normal offseason, had he been in training camp, had he hit the ground running in stride week 1, not needing oxygen at the end of the game because he had just started playing football that afternoon, that brings me to another point and observation of this season so far. And what the Niners, my entire show yesterday was about the biggest lesson to be learned so far from this season that can be applied going forward. Now, the lessons aren't like get better on special teams or have a really good rookie draft class, because that's not a lesson. That's you hope that's the goal of every year. To me, the number one lesson that the 49ers need to start applying to the way they do business is how they do business with their selected, we do not want them to go players. And I know that Brandon Ayuk was a hard to define sort of position this year. And the argument could be made, look, they had the offer that he took a month to think over before he agreed to it. So I'm going to almost let him go on the Brandon Ayuk thing. To me, the Trent Williams thing was absolutely fucking ridiculous. The very moment, the day Trent said I'm holding out is the day that a deal should have been done. And if you say, well, Trent wanted to hold out because he didn't want to go to training camp because he's a vet, well, believe me, that deal can be worked out with handshakes and backdoor agreements throughout all of training camp. Just get him in, get him ready, get him caught up. What was gained by holding out Trent Williams, by not agreeing instantly with a new contract for Trent Williams? Because you're still paying sticker price for him. You didn't save any money. You actually cost your team games and W's that you could have put in the bank already, and had this whole season not been defined by Mike Silver's bad vibe columns. I hope the number one lesson that the 49ers take forward, Larry, and apply to their remaining seasons that we cover this team is, if you got a player that you don't want to fuck around with, don't fuck around with them. Just sign them. Get them in. This whole, well, it's their process. The Niners historically have been slow to negotiate. I mean, George Kittle said that 500 times, talking about, Brandon Ayuk in every offseason interview he did. Change that. All right, change that, 49ers, because I don't think you're helping yourself as much as you're hurting yourself with this standard operating procedure of we wait late until training camp to give extensions. I don't think it's helping. So I hope that is one thing that they change going forward, is that when you got a player you want on your team next year, you get them into training camp happy with the contract done and not go through another offseason like this.
If I could have a lesson learned, and that's a good one, by the way. If I could have a lesson learned, it would be, don't extend for non-skill position guys. Don't extend for Javon. There's not a huge difference between DJ Jones and Evan Anderson. There's not a huge difference between Javon Hargrave and the Kevin Givenses of the world. So don't go after big money, non-skill position guys. If you want to change your fortunes in the NFL, change the running back, the wide receiver, the quarterback, the tight end, the guys who touch the football. That is going to change your fortunes. What are these teams adding? What did the Ravens just add? Deontay Johnson. What does he do? He touches the football. What did the Chiefs just add? DeAndre Hopkins. What does DeAndre Hopkins do? He touches the football. The best teams, if you want to change your team, change the guys who touch the football, and value those guys, but don't fall in love with everybody on your roster. I think the Niners, kind of to some degree fall too much in love with their own guys. Just, move on and rebuild, keep building. But the bigger one is, don't go all in on a guard. Don't go all in on a pass rushing tackle. I mean, and if you do, you better get a true game wrecker. They went all in on Hargrave. It burned them. Right. And they're still paying the price.
Look at it this way. Any day you can sign Reggie White, do that. If it isn't Reggie White, maybe hold off a little bit, Yeah.
And I mean, you get burned. You get burned on that second tier.
How much longer until we're looking at Nick Bosa in the light of there's a contract that's no longer worth it as opposed to the production that he's giving.
I mean, when is
already?
Like, he's not as good as he was. No, he's not playing as well.
Johnny Pressure. He's Johnny Pressure. He's paid to be Johnny Sacked Your Ass.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's a line. It's a group. It's a group effort. It's a group project. And it's like right now, like Nick Bosa is like the A student who's part of a group project, and he's still doing all the work, except the guys in his group project are not really holding up their end of the bargain. I mean, Floyd's had a couple good games, but that's why they need, to me, they need Jadeveon Clowney. They really do. They need a Son Reddick. They need a Azeez Ojulari. They need Trey Hendrickson. They need an edge rusher. They need Trayvon Walker. They need an edge rusher because Leonard Floyd is older and he can do it in spurts, but they don't have any depth behind them. Drake Jackson's done for the year. They're using Sam Aquinu inside, as a defensive tackle and obvious pass rushing down. So since he's inside, you're only 3 deep at defensive end. It's Beal and Bosa and Floyd. So and Floyd's older. So I think it has to do with the fact that Hargrave's been a disappointment. They don't have an interior rusher that's really dangerous. And
Matos has done nothing. I mean, he's been
non-factor so far. He's been hurt.
Yeah, that's really hurt the team this year.
Yeah. They're just hurt by the fact that, you got to speed up the quarterback. And if you can't speed up and they've got so many young DBs. Now, the young DBs are playing well, but they're playing well despite the fact they don't have a ton of rush. The numbers show it too. In Niners Nightly this week, we went with a couple numbers that I thought were pretty amazing. Now, the Niners only missed 4 tackles against Dallas, by the way. Through weeks 4 through 6, they were averaging 14 missed tackles a week, and they missed 17 against New England. So they did clean that up a little bit. But here's the number, Damon. The Niners ranked 26th in the NFL at third down conversion defense. They're only getting teams, they're allowing a 44.1% third down conversion rate. They're 26th in the league on third down defense at getting off the field. So, I mean, that's heat up the quarterback and move him off his spot. So there's a bunch of guys out there. I mentioned Azeez Ojulari, Trayvon Walker, Hassan Reddick, Trey Hendrickson. There's also Zadarius Smith, Arden Key, Jadeveon Clowney. Go get one of those guys. Because to me, especially when you have all these young DBs, you really have to help those young DBs out. Renardo Green, awesome. Malik Mustafa, awesome. But they're right now, they're still young guys. If you can somehow speed up the quarterback, you might be able to get that defense cooking to the level where you could go to the Super Bowl.
They need Dre Greenlaw. They really need Dre Greenlaw to come back in December and just be like, hey, daddy's home. And everybody's badass quotient has just gone up 3 rungs on the ladder because that's how much of a badass I am. You're more of a badass because you're playing next to me, and it's badass by osmosis. That's what the Niners need out of Dre Greenlaw when he gets back into the room.
Larry, Kev is suggesting to me that we not wait till the end for the supers because some people don't go the whole hour. Sure. So let's hit a couple supers. We'll do some right here. Okay, well, this is not a super, but this made me laugh. Clarsard said, "You're a Krug Show OG when you remember the Telmetrics ad."
So, Larry, I started that one when I saw it, and I put it into the super because I remember that. That's how long I've been watching, brother. Telmetrics, baby.
Telmetrics, exactly. Got a couple new sponsors today, actually, believe it or not. So we won't announce them today, but we set them up today. Fuji Simeon 13 says, what teams should be on watch if they lose this weekend to see if they start selling off assets and be potential trade partners for the Niners? Well, that's a good one.
I don't know if there's any one game that is going to change the prospects so dramatically for a single team fancying themselves like, oh, we were going to be a playoff team. Now we're not.
Well, and not everybody's going to sell. Like the Raiders I don't think are going to sell. I don't think the Raiders are going to sell anymore. They got rid of Devontae, but like all these people going, oh, they're going to move Max Crosby and Jacoby Myers and Robert Spillane and Colton Miller. They're going to move. No, they're not. They're
Here's
not
the
going
thing:
to move.
the Raiders are too poorly run to make a good decision like that, right? The Raiders are too poorly run to make a good decision like that, and that's the same thing about the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys at 3-4. If they lose to Atlanta, and Atlanta's 5-3, Atlanta's pretty good, especially at home. So if the Cowboys go to 3-5, it should be sell-off time. What do you got? What could you get? But Jerry Jones is too stubborn to do that. So I think that the Cowboys are disqualified from this conversation. Maybe the Dolphins officially enter this conversation. They go to 2-6, even with Tua back with a loss at Buffalo. Maybe they would change the way that they feel about themselves. If the Browns catch another loss and the wave of Jameis Winston changing the room, good tides, washes back into the sea as quickly as it hit the shore. I could see the Browns fancy themselves a little bit more as sellers. The Patriots already think of themselves as sellers. Maybe the New York Giants, they lose to the Commanders, but everyone—
They're sellers.
Yeah, everyone pretty much knows who they are, and I don't think this week's results change anything that dramatically for anybody.
Well, I don't know. I would probably disagree. I think there's a couple teams on that bubble. Like, for example, I have a buddy who covers the Dolphins in Miami. He is absolutely guaranteeing that Tyreek Hill is going to get traded by Tuesday.
Did Omar Kelly, by the way, is that your guy?
Which would be a huge— what's that?
Omar Kelly, is that happening? Is that your guy?
No.
Okay.
I have two different Dolphin sources who cover that team who say that Tyreek Hill is going to get dealt. So the Dolphins, I think, are absolutely— they're 2-5. If they fall to 2-6, they could be a seller. I think the Jets and Patriots, I don't think the Jets will do anything, but the Jets and Patriots could be sellers. The team that I think is the team to watch is the Bengals, because they're 3-5 and they're in a division with the Steelers at 6-2 and the Ravens at 6-3. If the Bengals fall to 3-6, the odds of them running the table are not good, and they have T. Higgins. So there's a lot of people speculating that they could be a team.
Forget about money or how he would fit into the cap. Give me your trade package that the 49ers should send to Miami for Tyreek Hill.
Well, I did bring this up last night to Dieter, that I think that Tyreek Hill is exactly the piece that the Niners need. I mean, he's an electric speed oriented receiver. I mean, like I'd have to see what his contract situation is exactly, but I would offer a second, a third, and Jacob Cowing. I mean, two picks, and Jacob Cowing, and maybe even a third pick, if depending on what kind of team control. Like if I had team control for a few years, I maybe would throw another day 3 pick in there. But yeah, that's what I would offer. And to me, Tyreek Hill would be exactly what the Niners need. I mean, he is exactly the piece that exactly the kind of piece that if the Niners did get their defense and special teams a little bit more momentum. Let's say they get a Greenlaw back, they get a Hufanga back, they get Yatir Gross, Matos, and Jake Moody back, and suddenly they're a little better on D and a little bit better on special teams. They're kicking the ball through the back of the end zone, so on and so forth. I think a Tyreek Hill could be the piece that gets them through the NFC playoffs and into the Super Bowl. I think he's that dynamic.
Yeah, a guy here named Ninja Dom, and you can go back to super chats in just a second, says, I'm okay with passing on Tyreek. Don't think he would do that well in Shanahan's offense. Look, you okay with passing on Tyreek? That's fine. It's too much of a star to really be wishing upon.
Right.
But he would be absolutely perfect in Kyle Shanahan's offense. He is the most dangerous in-space agitator offensively, maybe in the NFL. Nobody does better in I got 2 yards to operate in than Tyreek Hill. Imagine what Kyle Shanahan could do with him, the amount of space he could create for him, the amount
he's Ayuk and Debo all into one.
It's the screen game coming back to life. You give Tyreek
End
Hill
around
3 dudes to run around and block for him downfield, and that could be 6 any single time he
they
touches.
hit. I mean,
Yeah.
you throw him the hitch. You throw him. You could do a reverse, an end around. I mean, he runs full speed. He's got great speed. He's a difference maker. He is a difference maker.
How about this? It's pretty safe to assume that the guy who's wearing the crown of maybe one of the best 3 players at his offensive position, any one of those guys would do very well in Kyle Shanahan's system at any position. 49ers don't lack for offensive know-how. Okay. So,
no.
Okay. Let's get back to it.
Let's see. Did we go with this one?
Fuji Simeon.
We just had that one, didn't we?
We just had that. Yes. Thank you, Fuji.
And then we got this one from Fuji Simeon. It's terrible the Dodgers won the World Series. Dodger coworkers left work early to head down to L.A. for the parade. They would play Randy Newman's song "We Love L.A." after each Dodger victory and after they won the World Series. Did you see the Dodger fan who blew off his hand yesterday?
No.
You didn't see that?
No.
I won't show it, but there's a Dodger fan trying to light fireworks. He's trying to light like an M80 off the ground, and he blew off his hand.
Oh, and it's like graphic.
It's graphic. I mean, he like holds up his hands, and they're all like.
He's got the Jason Pierre-Paul.
yeah. Seriously, like rush that guy to the hospital. That guy needs emergency surgery. I mean, it was just like unbelievable, dude. How about this? You win a championship. How about just go to a bar and have a beer, or or go to a store and get some beer and or some champagne or whatever. But just don't be running through the streets of a major American city, lighting off fireworks with your hand. I mean, it's just.
I never understood we have accomplished something that has so satisfied me as a sports fan that I need to go break some shit. Like, shouldn't the team on the losing end be the one with the fans who are out breaking shit?
Well, not that would be honest. Those aren't the fans. Those aren't the fans.
No,
these are people that are just, happen to be downtown and whatever municipality happens to win. And then all of a sudden they just, hey, wait, we can loot something. We can, set a bus on fire. It's like,
oh, Larry, I get the perfect way to describe those people. Assholes.
Yeah. Anarchists. Assholes. I mean, they literally, they're anarchists and they're just looking to fuck shit up.
By the way, Fuji Simeon, God bless you, man. You were so generous. You pay for all these super chats. How about going over to the Damon Bruce page and dropping a few over there instead of giving it all to Larry? Good God,
I didn't even notice that. How do you know? How do you know where it's going? Where does it say?
Because it pops up on my end over here. Is a little bit more like I can monitor things on my page or on your page, and I don't know. Either way,
are you sure that's going to me? I thought he was with you.
No, he's with you, Larry.
Oh, well, Fuji Simeon then. Start talking him up. The man known as Fuji Simeon.
The legend.
The legend, the man, the myth.
All right,
by next show, he's got his own theme song.
It's Fuji Simeon. He's giving another super chat. How do we pronounce the name of the new 49ers general manager? Is it Manasian?
Giants. You mean Giants?
Yeah.
Zach Manasian.
Okay.
Manasian.
Just like it reads.
Yeah. Zach Manasian, whose dad was best friends with Tommy Lasorda. So it's
his
Zach
brother,
Thomas Manasian. Thomas for Tommy Lasorda. The Giants general manager's middle name is named after the Dodgers manager.
He was a pallbearer at Tommy's funeral. His brother is the GM of the Angels. So this is the first time brothers have ever been GMs at the same time in Major League history. And look, Major League Baseball's been around officially long enough to where there aren't a lot of firsts anywhere available in the sports history. So that's kind of cool. And we'll see if Posey found the right guy or not. Only
by the way, firsts on the first front, whoever makes the playoffs between brothers Manasian will be the first because, Perry has not led the Angels to the playoffs yet.
Well, I mean, neither could Shohei Ohtani. That's how messed up. How about that? Shohei Ohtani goes from no winning seasons to World Series. 1 year. Year one with the Dodgers. It's a World Series for him. God
By
damn.
the way, the Yankee fans watching Mike Francesa watch Anthony Rizzo not cover first base was so enjoyable. He's like, what the hell? What the hell is that? What the hell? You know, the Yankee fans were losing their mind in that inning.
That is on Garrett Cole, but that is also on Rizzo. I mean, Rizzo, hustle your ass over to first. I've watched that play like 10 times, and Cole clearly should have covered the bag. That's spring training, day one workout shit right there.
Yeah. Get over there, man.
But Rizzo, I mean, put a little giddy up in your hitch, would you? I mean,
try. I mean, you saw as soon as you looked over at him, you knew he wasn't going to be there. Your first instinct is absolutely bust ass to the bag, and he didn't do it. So it's like they both were losers on that play. Fuji Simeon says Posey promoted a Farhan hiree, vice president of scouting, as the new GM. Is it okay to say the Giants like the Zidi approach, just not Zidi as the sales guy? Well, I think you've hit on the right word there. Zidi didn't understand basic sales. He could not verbalize or sell his program to prospective free agents, agents of prospective free agents, his own team, the media, the fans. The general manager job is a sales job at its core. You have to sell your vision for your franchise to all these groups of people and get them to operate with enthusiasm and energy towards your end. But instead, he could never sell anything. He talked a huge game. The key to sales, because it's like everything else. I used to do sales, okay? So I know the key to sales. I know sales. The key to sales is this: under promise and over deliver. If that is the only rule that you ever follow, manage your clients' expectations. Who are the fans? They're your clients. Manage their expectations. Farhan would go into every trade deadline talking. There is no stone that's too big. There's no, we're going to try for the biggest and the brightest. And then he would get AJ Pollock. Right. You can't talk a big game. I would advise Buster and Zach Manasian and everybody with the Giants, go after the biggest names. Tell us when you land them.
Right. Well,
don't tell us until you land them.
Hey, how about this? You and I both were there. We covered Buster Posey. We were there for all of it. I can't remember a single thing he ever said, not once. Buster Posey, the baseball player, I could tell you an awful lot about him. Buster Posey, the quote, nothing. Just absolutely nothing. He was just very matter of fact, and I don't think he is going to be the public frontward-facing, overselling guy. You know what's really funny about Zidi too, Larry, is that, I would listen to him with Tolbert and Copeland or doing interviews with you even, right? And he always came across really well in the interview, but then I would hear
he's very good.
A buddy of mine is like really good friends with Brandon Belt. And so I would I'm now identifying, I probably shouldn't have done that, but okay. So Brandon Belt would constantly tell his buddy, who would get back to me, like, just Zidi's terrible at talking to the team. He's terrible at talking to the agents. He is terrible to get on the phone. He's like Jimmy Garoppolo. You can't get a call back from the guy. He's impossible to find when you need to get him on the phone the most. And I was like, really? Because he doesn't come across like that in the interviews that I'm listening to. He doesn't. That doesn't seem like he would be attached to that. But that was it. Agents didn't like dealing with him. Players didn't like dealing with him. Players on other teams, agents on other teams, agents and players on his own team didn't like dealing with him. So that ultimately was part of the downfall too.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately you can't make a million moves that are inconsequential. I mean, he just, it's great. I mean, it's great to, I hate to say this because it makes it sound like I'm really want to tear into the guy, but he used the 25th man on the roster and the 40th man on the 40-man roster, kind of the way that I use my final roster on my fantasy team. I'm constantly changing out the last guy on my roster, trying to pick up the running back that had a good week, the receiver that had a good week, looking for incremental improvement. But guess what? That's fine. That's fine to do. It's called like, you're working kind of the back end of your roster. Okay. That's fine. But it has to come with other creative deals and significant deals. And until this year, they didn't make any. And so I just think that, Dog said it on TV the other day, or maybe on the radio on KMBR. He's like, the Giants have to stop getting involved in these high profile free agent pursuits. It's one thing to look your fans in the eye and say, hey, we're going to go after the best players. The fans want to hear that. But you have to, inherent in that, or what's expected in that, is you have to land some. Otherwise, it's just a gigantic negative commercial for why nobody wants to play for you. So what I suggested yesterday on Twitter was like, I love the idea of signing Juan Soto. I love the idea of signing Pete Alonso, right? I mean, they're big name guys for sure. I'd love the idea of signing Corbin Burns. And by the way, Burns pitched in Milwaukee. Managian comes from Milwaukee. Burns pitched at St. Mary's. Maybe they'll sign Corbin Burns. Just an idea. But what they really need to do, it's like the Giants missed out they lost out to the Dodgers in the offseason, but they focused entirely on the loss of Ohtani. The guy that they really lost out on was Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
The Dodgers signed Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar Hernandez had like 35 RBIs before the end of April. I mean, he was absolutely their offensive guy in the first month or two of the season, and he had a great year. He's a free agent again. Go after, instead of make a proactive strike early in free agency, like day one, and overpay for a Teoscar Hernandez the way you kind of overpaid for Matt Chapman. Why? Because if you have Chapman and Teoscar Hernandez, now when you go to call Soto or Alonso or other guys, they're like, hey, wait, well, yeah, I might go there. The biggest overstated part of the Giants' struggles was how dangerous the city of San Francisco was. That was the most bullshit line. That was the line that that's the coverall excuse that's really not applicable. What I know, baseball players, they're not worried about the safety of walking from their house or their apartment or their condo to the ballpark in San Francisco. I've been in every major city in America. Don't tell me San Francisco, south of Market, is the most dangerous area there is. That's bullshit. That's not true. It's a lie. What those players didn't sign, the reason they didn't sign with the Giants is because they lack protection in the lineup. It's not protection on the street. It's being naked and unprotected in the Giants lineup. And that's the problem. That's why Buster went and signed Chapman before the end of the year, extended him. That's why. I think that's why he's going to make a proactive early free agency strike for a big name guy, if not the biggest name, a big name like a Hernandez, because hitters are telling them, I'll go there. You're going to have to overpay me because free agency, you always got to overpay. But I'll go there and I'll even sign there long term, but I need some protection in the lineup. So I really think that's really a key thing for hitters.
Yep. Yeah, no, without a doubt. And look, you can't offer me a ballpark that's going to gobble up my stats and no protection.
Right.
It's why they have success signing some pitchers, because that's a very safe ballpark for a pitcher. Pitchers love pitching at 24 Willie Mays Plaza. They love
the get right spot for pitchers, but it's not the get right spot for hitters. So you do have to sign the hitters to big money long term. You're not going to. Yeah, that's a perfectly said. You're not going to get the hitter to sign the 1 year prove it deal to come there. He's going to go to Arizona. He's going to go to any number of ballparks that aren't Dodger Stadium, Petco, Oracle. They're not going to play in the NL West if they want to have one big year.
You're right. I want my warning track power to turn into 6 more home runs this year. Well, then 24 Willie Mays Plaza is the wrong ballpark for you, because that's
so that means you got to pay those
guys in that park.
That means you got to pay those guys, because that means that their next contract is probably not going to be great. So that means that you're almost going to have to give them huge money on the current contract. Otherwise, there's no incentive for them to come to you. So, I mean, I think Buster and Managian will be better than Farhan. But I'll say this, though. I do like the fact that they're not just gutting the whole thing. They're keeping, they kept an in-house pitching coach. They went in-house on Managian because they realized that Farhan did some real positive things. They don't want to start from absolute zero and tear the thing down to the studs. They're trying to take the positive of the last regime and then just kind of graduate beyond that. I think it's the right plan. We'll see if it works, but I think it's the right plan.
I know for a fact that we've spent too much time on this topic. Let's move on.
All right. No doubt. Oh, wait, let's see. We didn't read. Fuji Simeon says, did we get that last one? Wait.
Yes, we just went through that one. That's what we just got.
Okay, so now Posey promoted at Farhan Hyrie. Okay, we read that.
We already got it.
Okay, now we got this one. Big Tone says, Larry, I want bust quarterbacks, fast receivers, Larry, and you're being called Davis, I believe. It's Damon.
Thank you.
But you can call him Davis, I guess. One of my good friends as a little kid was named Davis. Larry, I want bust quarterbacks and fast receivers, Larry and Damon. There you go. Max 707 says, Larry, how many hours do you sleep on average? Well, that's a good question. I usually go to bed at around 1, and I usually get up around 9. But I also get up earlier on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I get up at 8. And then on game day, of course, I usually get up early. So I'm getting up usually around 8 or 9, and I'm usually going to bed between 1 and 2. How many hours is that?
I haven't gotten 8 hours of sleep in any night in my life, I don't think. I sleep for about 4.5 to 5 hours, and then I'm just done with sleeping. And I'll lay there
4 hours?
Yeah, I don't sleep much. I
You're
really
like
don't.
AJ Preller. AJ Preller sleeps 3 hours a day.
Well, I've always said me and AJ Preller are like the same guy.
I mean, you need a certain amount of sleep. My whole thing is like,
I do crush naps.
I get up early when I got things to do. If I don't have things to do, I could sleep till 10. I mean, I don't like if I get up early so many days a week and stay up late that if I do have a morning where it's like there's nothing going on, I will sleep till like 9:30, 10 o'clock. Fuji Simeon says, do you agree with Mad Dog's Giants take? Don't sign big star free agents right now. Get to the point where you have a decent team established via farm system and then pursue star free agents.
Already discussed.
Yeah. Yep. We would have definitely agreed. Julius Callaway. So center since he touches the football literally every play. No.
Oh, here's, if we can break from the super chats, just let me ask you one more quick 49er question about this week and the bye week and how they're going to use it. And Forrester maybe implementing a change at center. Are you picking up that headwind at all as you've been down covering this team? Is there any change coming out of the bye?
No. Forrester loves Brendel. Okay. Brendel, I mean, Feliciano's there, but he won't start over Brendel, at least not right away. Corey Wiggs says, here's my thing, Larry. Who is TJ Watt's mate? Who is Hutchinson's? I don't agree that it's because the other three alongside of him. Who's it's called, his name's Alex Highsmith.
Well, Nick
Herbig and Keanu Benton. And, as far as Hutchinson, they just went and got DJ Reader. They're Hutchinson has been a man all by himself, really. But I mean, these other guys do matter. Believe me. I mean, if you don't believe it, just watch the way teams block. You can't have one guy. If you just have one guy, they slide the line that direction. They chip him, and he's done. You can eliminate a defensive line that has one guy and one guy only. No doubt about that. This is Los 0202 says, this is the best Bay Area sports show. Wish you guys together were on longer and more regular. Cheers to you both. We're on for about 90 minutes, 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then 4 days a week, sometimes after the post game. So we're on quite a bit together. But we appreciate that compliment. We absolutely
Thank you.
do. Angel Murillo says, how do you guys feel about fans being turned away from the 49er Cowboy game for wearing a MAGA hat? So much for freedom of speech for citizens. I don't think they were turned away. I saw the video. Did you see the video? I don't know. I
don't even know what they're talking about.
There was a family who came into the game, and the security at the game wouldn't let the father or the brother, one of the gentlemen in the group in because he was wearing a MAGA hat. I think that's, first of all, of course, they should not do that. They should let them in. It's freedom of speech. But it's not like it's freedom of speech, but it's also freedom of speech. I don't know what the rules are as far as inciting other people. But like, let's just say you had a hat. Now that should not incite other people. It's a vote for a major party candidate. But it shouldn't matter if you have a Kamala Harris T-shirt, a Joe Biden hat, a Donald Trump hat. Those are. But if you had like a swastika on your hat, or you had something true, then yes, they can. You're going to cause fights and a huge thing. And so I'm sure that they were trying to keep the people out because they felt they would cause some kind of a huge, brawl or some kind of fight. But it's a sensitive time right now. It's with the election coming up in a week, and it's a bad look. It's just a bad look. It's a bad look for the Niners. It's a bad look for the security. It's like, really? Are we going to be that set off by a hat? But people are very charged. It's a very politically charged time. But I did see that, and I think that what happened was security came over. They talked to the people, and then like the security's boss came over and said, "Oh, I apologize. You guys can go in." So obviously there was some error made by the initial security.
You know what almost offends me more as a parent who is teaching his kids to read right now is when people are allowed to like walk into a thing, 40 fucking Niners. Like, look, I am very much going to be voting for Kamala on Tuesday next week, but you have the right to express yourself anyway. Like, if you want to vote for the other guy, you go ahead and vote for the other guy. That is your right as an American citizen. You want to promote that? Okay, go ahead. I think it identifies you as someone who I don't want to get into it. But
what it really does is it shows that everybody's engaged. I mean, there's a lot of engagement right now.
Like to me, like if you're wearing swear words on your shirt, like that shouldn't be allowed. Somewhere where
I walked into Costco. I walked into Costco on Saturday, Damon. A guy in front of me is walking in, and he's got a black T-shirt on. The back of it said "F Joe Biden." Now, whatever. I'm an adult. I don't care either way. But I did kind of think of somebody like yourself because my kids are older and they don't care. But your kids our brains are forming and they're well educated, and they're now seeing words, and every time they see a word, they think about it. So I do think that there should be some level of decorum, people, on what you're as far as shirts,
right.
Putting a bunch of swear words on there, or it's just a little much. It's a little.
How about
much.
a little discretion? Can we have some discretion in 2024?
I would say this: stop using terrible language in front of kids. Stop putting terrible language on T-shirts that you wear in public. Stop fighting in front of kids. I mean, I can tell you as a little kid, when I can remember going to the Giants team parking lot for after a Giant Dodger game on a Friday night. I was in like the 5th grade, and a gigantic brawl broke out. And, we got caught up in it, right? Like, we were just standing right there, but like 2 guys on our right started fighting 2 guys on our left, and we're in 5th grade, and we just got caught up in this brawl. Like, literally, I'm getting stomped on, and people are falling on me, and nobody was hitting us, of course, but we got caught in the middle of a brawl. Well, Damon, I had like nightmares about that for like 3 years because it was like the first time I'd ever seen like up close mayhem like that, right? Just true mayhem. We're swearing and fighting and violence and blood and and it was scary. And it was scary at the time. And all I would say is, come on, man, don't scare kids. I'm not a fan of scaring children. Don't scare children. It scars them.
The single worst thing I've ever seen done to a kid at a sporting event was Candlestick Park, 49ers and Saints playoff game. And this guy who was, I don't know, from New Orleans, whatever, he was walking in there and his daughter was with him and he was a Saints fan and his daughter was dressed like a little Saints cheerleader. She was adorable. She was 7 years old. And these 30, 40-year-old 49er fans were saying, fuck your daughter, that fucking whore, fuck you Saints. And I literally couldn't believe it. I literally couldn't believe it. If I had had my wish to have all those guys just drop dead of heart attacks right there, I would have wished it on them. How could you do that to a little girl dressed as a cheerleader because you root for the other team? Like, give me more fucking my dad raised a shitty person vibes. Like,
let's just try to maintain a level of class. I mean, that's
it was
all.
disgusting. I didn't think that even existed among 49er. I could not believe it.
And you know what? I mean, it's okay to be like, hey, bro, I don't want to fight you at this game. I mean, I don't engage in every single time. I mean, every single time someone challenged me to a fight in my life, I didn't take on all comers. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'll fight but sometimes you fight because you have to. But I mean, there are a lot of people that like to. And the bottom line is it's you never know what can happen. Your head's going to hit the back of the cement. You're going to go down. You're probably going to have some kind of serious injury. I mean, come on. Can we learn from Brian Stowe? Can we learn from that terrible situation at Dodger Stadium? That's like, you know what? It's okay to just be like, hey, bro, fine. You're tougher than me. Way to go. You're tough. You don't have to sit there and blood and guts and fight it out to the death in section 120 at a Niner game. And I'll tell you right now, the players think you're all jackasses. They really do. I mean, the players love the fans, but if they think the fans who fight at the games are idiots. You're not winning their respect. You're losing their respect. Cosmin says, Cosmin Cozy Codes, it's awesome to hear you guys talk Giants. It gets kind of boring hearing about the same 49er topics over and 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 over.
Yeah, the last thing YouTube needed was another who do you think the Niners are going to trade for show today. So hopefully we gave you something different than that.
Well, I talk Niners because I'm passionate about Niners, but you guys know me. I'm passionate about the Warriors and the Giants too. Big Tone says it's your obsession for fast receivers like Al Davis. No. Here's the thing about receivers. I don't have an obsession with fast receivers. I have an obsession for the 49ers to add a fast receiver because the 49ers, you need complementary receivers. Like the Chiefs had Xavier Worthy, so they didn't need a fast receiver. They needed a move the chains guy. They got DeAndre Hopkins. So receiving cores have to complement one another. Everybody can't be a possession guy. Everybody can't be a go route guy, but you need a complement. The Niners have the underneath receiver. They have the 5 yards within the 5 yards of the line of scrimmage receiver. They don't have Ayuk anymore. He was their deep guy. So they could really use some speed. That's why I said that for the Niners. Blood Moon says tight end 2 is a must. Njoku, Garrett Wilson's price just went up after that game last night. Yeah, I mean, Garrett Wilson would cost you a first-round pick, but if I were the Niners, I would offer my first-round pick. Why? Because I think the Jets are stupid enough to take it, and also look at the Niners next year. They're not going to have I would say, if you said, right now on November 1st, what are the Niners going to look like next year? My guess is CMC is going to come back. He's going to play. He's going to give the Niners whatever he can this year. And he's going to rupture his Achilles. So that would be my guess of how that's going to go. I don't know when he'll rupture it, but I think he will at some point. Especially since it's 2, right? He could rupture 1 and then have 1 that's still dangling. So I just think there's a chance that next year you could go into next year with no CMC, no Debo because you can't afford him, and no Ayuk. So if you had Garrett Wilson, if you could get him, he would be your best wide receiver next year. He might be your most explosive weapon. I think the Jets might be dumb enough to trade him. I would offer my first-round pick.
By the way, how about the 49ers coach up Mason Pline or one of their backup tight ends and get them ready to play some football this year? How about that?
I'm not relating that to what we're talking about. Is that what do you? Oh, you mean instead of Njoku?
Njoku's a must. Yeah, I mean, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I love Mason Pline, and he's coming, but and I would force feed him a little bit and get him out there. I agree with you, Damon. A tight end that could catch the ball might be. They have a bunch of. It's weird. They've got Willis who can catch. They got Saubert who can block. It would be nice if they had a little bit more of an all-around second tight end as opposed to just, true backups. We got KR says, love the stories The zeros at the stick were wild dog days.
Those were something else. They really were.
Yeah. Travis Stewart says, I knew there were reasons I don't agree with DBV. Oh, very much, I guess. Very much. All right.
No, sure.
Hey,
Okay.
you know what? We're not running for office. So, maybe that's why he said he doesn't agree, because you said you're going with Harris. Angel Murillo says, if anybody, it's going to be Cortland Sutton. Did you see Peyton cussing him out on the sideline? I think Sutton is done in Denver. You know what? That's an interesting one. The Niners did show interest in Sutton. They were told it was going to take a day 2 pick. My guess is the Niners probably were hoping for a third, and that Denver probably wanted a second. The Niners probably said no. But yeah, that number may have gone down. That ask may have gone down. If you could get Cortland Sutton for a 5th round pick, you might do it. There's a lot of speculation about them.
Is having a terrible year. I don't know if that's Bo Nix or how he fits. I don't know, but I am not a fan of Cortland Sutton this year. I don't know if look at it this way. If you do add Cortland Sutton, you're going to need to add another wide receiver next year too. So,
yep. So those are all the supers.
There it is.
There you go. We're an hour and 30 minutes in. We probably should call it right here, because I'll be streaming. I forgot that it's Friday. I've been doing Fridays from Levi's. I'll be streaming in 7 minutes with Chase Sr. So
all right.
Probably should call it a day.
Well, then we'll tap out right here and right now. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Larry, I got a kind of an interesting day. We're going to do a little Sports Phone Friday. We're going to be taking some calls on my show at 11. And then later today, I'm taping a video that we're going to come out with a little bit later on with Andrew Siciliano and Sam Batesh, our old friend Sam
He's a Dodger fan.
Yeah, we'll probably talk about that just a little, but we're going to kind of give NFL midterm grades beyond just the 49ers. So That's what we got coming up today and this weekend, and I hope everyone enjoys their weekend. It is a stress-free 49er fan weekend. You got no game to worry about on Sunday. I know you got your event at Pig and the Pickle. I got my event happening at the Dubliner and West Portal. So no matter where you go, you're supporting the both of us. Make sure you get to one of those 2 events, everybody. And thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Cheers, and thank you so very, very much, Larry. You're a football guy.
Krug, I'd love to know what you got on the Krug show today. Good old Trent Baalke's going to be watching some Krug show. All right, so later on today, I'm going to go do a live stream right now with Chase Sr. at 10:45. 2:50, I'll be on today with Tom Tolbert and Kerry Crowley for a segment with the boys on The Leader. And then at 6 p.m., Niners Nightly on KMBR. And the guest tonight is the great Jesse Sapolu is going to be in the house. So I'm looking forward to that tonight at 6 o'clock. And that's going to do it. Tomorrow, we're going to do a call-in show in the morning and the 49er forecast tomorrow on KMBR at 10 a.m. And Ira Kaufman is going to stop by from Tampa, and we'll take our first look at the Buccaneers. And then Sunday, join me from noon to 6. I'll be a Pig and a Pickle, and we'll just be eating barbecue and drinking beer and hanging out. So, good show. Good show. Thanks to Sam's Chowderhouse once again. We'll throw their video one last time. Thanks to Sam's. They're awesome. Go check them out. Half Moon Bay. The food is amazing. The location is second to none. You just can't beat it. You absolutely cannot beat it.
A foggy day in San Francisco. By the time you get down to Half Moon Bay, that's all gone. You got blue skies and beautiful conditions. And again, look at that Cioppino right there. Who cares what the sky looks like when the bowl of Cioppino looks like that? Thanks very much.
I love a bowl of Cioppino. I've always said it.
Cioppino guy?
I'm a Cioppino guy. I go into the Cioppino, I think to myself, you know what? Get me some muscles. I'm a football guy who likes Cioppino, so I hunt for the muscles.